God's love is lifting me higher than I've ever been lifted before. Good morning. I said good morning. Yeah, we're here to celebrate. Put those hands together. God's love is lifting me higher than I've ever been lifted before. So much love fills my desires, and I live as love forevermore. Now once I was downhearted, disappointment was my closest friend. Then love came and fear soon departed, and my heart is open and free once again. 'Cause God's love is lifting me higher than I've ever been lifted before. Love lifts me up, fills my desire, and I live as love forevermore. Let me tell you, I'm so glad love is always in me. And there's one thing that I surely know. If you wanna be, you wanna be free. Oh, just make up your mind to release and let go. Hey, yeah, God's love is lifting me higher than I've ever been lifted before. Love lifts me up, fills my desire, and I live in love forevermore. Yeah, God's love keeps on lifting me higher, hey, than I've ever lift me up, woo, and feel my desire, yeah, and I live as love forevermore. Come on, y'all, sing with me. God's love, lifting me higher. Come on, y'all, than I've ever been lifted before. Love lifts me up, feeling my every desire, and I live, and I live, and I live. God's love lifted me higher, woo-hoo, than I've ever been lifted before. Love lifts me up, lifts me up, lifts me up, lifts me up, and I live as love forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Whoa. Yeah.
Thank you. Please welcome to the Bema Reverend Dr. Keith Cox. So full of the soul.
Follow that, right? Well, if you have not, I'm sorry I've got this in my hand like this. There's an issue with our live stream, so I'm trying to let people know that they can pick us up on Facebook Live. So you can pick us up on Facebook Live. Watch off of my wall. All right, there we go. Say hi, Arne, because I've yet to flip the camera around. So, Arne Batson, ladies and gentlemen. Along with the one and only Pete Orlansky on bass. And the one and only Pete Orlansky on bass. Andrew Belly, one of our co-music directors. We're happy to have you in the house. And Guy Azule. So good morning, everyone. You're a mighty crew this morning. I love it. Girl, you might have to be here every Sunday, right? Mm-hmm. Little caffeine pick-me-up for everyone. So, welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living Los Angeles. We're happy to have each and every one of you here today. And we've got a very special service planned for you. So, are you ready and receptive? Yes! Good. So, some great music for you. We have a guest speaker, a dear soul brother of mine that's here from Atlanta, Georgia. So happy to have him here, Dr. David Ault, who's going to be spreading the message with you. So wonderful. And I am Reverend Dr. Keith Cox. I'm known as your spiritual leader. So we're happy to have you here, whether you're joining us live stream or in person today. We are a spiritual community that comes together every Sunday morning for what we like to call our celebration service. We come together to give you the opportunity. I forgot I'm mic'd. I'm not mic'd today. So to give you the opportunity, I'm going to do this, Bob. Well, no, I'm not. Here we go. Now I am. So we come together every Sunday morning to provide what we like to call a safe space, meaning one that you feel comfortable in allowing yourself to open up to the spiritualness of life that exists, that you can find that space within you where you can invoke our vision statement, which is finding your personal self-empowerment through a spiritual awakening. Ultimately, what that means is that we want to create a space where through the energy of the allness of life, you feel comfortable in finding out who you are and celebrating that and living from that perspective. We welcome all sizes, all colors, all ages, all cultures, all sexes, all beliefs, all religions, all types of people. In other words, all sentient beings. You are welcome here as long as you're here to express love and experience love. So as our beloved teacher, Dr. David Walker used to say, welcome one and welcome all. So as I said to you earlier, we have a great service planned for you today, and looking forward to that unfolding for us. We open our service every Sunday morning with a ritual. It's called Calling in the Light, and the purpose of that ritual is for each one of us to anchor ourselves into the allness of life that I just spoke of, to honor the qualities of the divine that we speak of in metaphysics here, and to just give an opportunity for us as an energy field as a community in this room and beyond on live stream to just settle in and open up and receive for the time that we're here today, which is sometimes about an hour, maybe an hour and 8 minutes, sometimes an hour and 14, and sometimes 56. So just be willing to roll with that. With each of the within that ritual of calling in the light, we light a candle along for those qualities, and the last one is a healing candle. And I want to take a moment right now to acknowledge one of our members who's having knee surgery this Friday, Wendy Waris, and let's just all hold in the light for her that is works out with divine. Okay, back surgery. It's not uncommon. I don't think the Lord knows the difference. So we'll go with when she spoke out, that was a thank you. So with no further ado, maybe I should have either a little more or a little less caffeine. Let's welcome the musicians back. I invite you to open up to that. Our practitioner of the day, who is taking us through the ritual, is Reverend James Hartsburg. I'd like to invite him to the bema. And our illuminator of the day is Dan Turman. So enjoy the journey.
Morning, I'm Reverend James Hartsburg. The ritual we perform this morning is called Calling in the Light. Today we perform this ceremony to promote the universal consciousness of life, which acknowledges that all peoples and all faiths and all sentient beings come from the one all-abiding presence, which we call spirit. The purpose of this ritual is to draw into our gathering this morning a conscious awareness of our oneness and the qualities we possess as complete expressions of the divine. The first candle lit is for the quality of peace. In this way, we honor our inherent divine state of inner calm, regardless of any seeming chaos unfolding around or within us. The second candle is illuminated for the quality of power, the power we acknowledge as the energy by which everything exists. We light the third candle for the quality of beauty, all personal expression by which high spiritual qualities are made manifest. We light the fourth candle for the quality of joy, that state of being that is excited by the expectancy and the experience of good. We light the fifth candle for light, the symbol of divine intelligence. The sixth candle is lit for all life, that which is defined as the animating principle of being, that inner something that makes everything live. We light the seventh candle for the quality of love, defined as the self-givingness of spirit, the desire of life to express itself by giving of itself. We light the eighth candle for the quality of wisdom. The concept of unity is the mystical secret of ages and the key to wisdom. The final candle we light is known as the healing candle. And I ask that you take a moment and think of someone you would like to silently put into the light of the healing flame, to experience the eternal and everlasting love of the divine.
Calling in the light, calling in the light, calling in the light of love, calling in the light, calling in the light, calling in the light of love. I am love.
I am love.
I am peace.
I am peace.
In my heart,
In my heart,
I am free.
I am free.
I am spirit.
I am spirit.
I am soul.
I am soul.
All together,
All together,
we are whole.
we are whole.
Calling in the light, calling in the light, calling in the light
Of love,
of love,
calling in the light, calling in the light, falling in the light of love.
And so it is.
And so it is.
And so it is.
And so in this awareness, in this divine consciousness, we recognize that there is only one power, one presence, one divine thing happening here, and that is called life, the one animating principle. And we know that life calls upon us now. We know that the universe is calling, and that each and every person here has a divine appointment on this plane. And in this awareness, we choose to answer this calling, to be more love, to be more light, to express the divine in our own unique way, to be more peaceful, and to embrace all the qualities of the divine. And so I choose for each and every person here today that we gladly accept this responsibility bestowed upon us, so that we may make this world a better place. And so we start with each and every person here today as individuals, and know that each and every person collectively, as a spiritual community, lends its unique talents, unique divine expression to the spiritual community that we call LA Spiritual Centers. Excuse me, you know what I mean. Centers for Spiritual Living. And there you go. And so in this awareness and this great celebration, doesn't matter what we call it, we know why we're here. And we know what our responsibility is. So in this spirit, we choose to say yes. We choose to say yes to this divine calling, this divine awareness. And so we simply say thanks. Thanks for each and every person present here today, for our spiritual director, for our congregation, for our volunteers, for our guest speaker today. We know that the words spoken here today are ones of enlightenment and empowerment. And so we prepare ourselves to receive the message spoken here today. And so with deep gratitude and absolute faith in the creative process, we now turn the service over to infinite intelligence and release it. And together we say, and so it is.
Thank you, Reverend James and Dan and the music team. So what we just witnessed was how humanity steps in, right? How we step in and our own humanity kind of kicks a glitch up into what we thought had planned in life. Has that ever happened to anyone in the room? It happens to me on Thursdays, so usually around 1:26, and then I clean it up about 3:20. So not 4:20, 3:20. So our live stream is up. They're there. So let's say hello to everyone that's here via live stream right now. Wave to them. Yes, wave. Imagine you're on the other end receiving the waving. So it's a good thing. So we know that we're live and streaming. And so also there's a lot of new faces in here today, and just want to say a big thank you and a shout out for you all being here. I know some of you are here because the one and only Dr. David Ault is here. Some of you are here because of Arne Batson, and some of you are just here because it's the right place to be, and we're happy for all of that. So it's rare that I request music, correct? It's pretty rare that I do that, even though I have a long playlist that I listen to all the time and want our musicians to present to us on Sunday mornings. But as I tell Yaron and Andy all the time, is I trust them. I trust them and their everything that they do. I trust the music they bring to us, the musicians, all of that. However, the song that you're going to hear next is one that is one of my favorite songs ever. And it is what one would be considered an old spiritual, right? Yeah, and I requested that it be sung today because I knew that the lady that's about to sing it is going to rock the house out. So I know that you're ready and receptive for that. Arne Batson and the music team singing Just a Closer Walk.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, come on, y'all. Set it up. Yeah. Y'all feel that? I said, do y'all feel that? Yeah. Okay, I do know the words to the song. Here we go. Just a closer walk with thee. Thank you, Spirit, I am free. Daily walking close to thee. Let it be. Dear Lord, let it be. Let's do that one more again. That felt good. I said just a closer walk with thee. Granted Spirit, I am free. Daily walking close to thee. Oh, let it be, dear Lord, let it be. Hey, sometimes I feel weak, and sometimes I'm strong. Anybody know what that means? Like, Holy Spirit keeps me all along, and I'll be satisfied just as long as I can walk close to thee. Oh, anybody know what I'm talking about? Just a closer walk with thee. Oh, thank you, Holy Spirit, for my free. Oh, daily walking a little closer to thee. Let it be, dear Lord, just let it be. Put some hands together. Somebody help me out. I said just a closer walk with thee. Yes, Holy Spirit, I am free. Anybody out here feel free today? Put it up. Daily walking close to thee. Oh, just let it be. Let it be, dear Lord. Let it be. Oh, no matter the weather, we're always together. We're gonna keep on walking with thee. Yes, we will. Come on, Andy, help me out. No matter the weather, we're always together. We're gonna keep on walking with thee. Yes, we will. Hey, no matter the weather, we're always together. We're gonna keep on walking with thee. One more again, one more again, one more again. No matter the weather, we're always together. We're gonna keep on walking. Walking, 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 walking. Woo! Walking, walking. Oh, y'all got me walking up in here today. Walking close, walking close. Gotta stay close. Gotta stay close. Gotta stay close. Oh, to thee. Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, thank you. Oh, the band. The band. Reverend Keith, that was for you. That was for you.
Ooh, Lord have mercy, Gert, you took us to church. did. And I have one thing to say about that. Well, besides, you better work. But it is, thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Andy and Pete and Guy. We do have to show my soul brother from Atlanta how to do it here in the land of angels, right? This man knows how much I love him, and he's a soul brother of mine. And one of the ways that I showed him how much I loved him was giving him that, because, honey, I could preach for 30 minutes after that to you, let me tell you, just about that stuff. We're so blessed to have today David Ault, who is someone that I walk with thee with. We have a long, rich history, and for over 30 years, he's been involved in the human potential movement as an unwavering crusader for spiritual evolution, global literacy, and social justice. He's a teacher. I don't want to read all of that. Let me tell you who he is. So, he's my soul sister brother. That's who he is. And this is a man who walks his talk. He is a provocateur when it comes to metaphysics. He is traveling the world, awakening people to not only their spiritual magnificence, but by living, really, this teaching in a modern day way. We were talking last night about how it's such a time to look at this whole teaching in a new broad way, but both from a broad way, not from Broadway. And but one of the things that I love most about David is that he has a school building project. And home building as well, school and home in Cambodia, which he's expanding that. But his mission in life is to provide spaces for children to tap into their potential. And he does that for adults as well, but I just know that that's something that he's drawn to doing that, not only just in Cambodia, but in other places around the world. He takes people on spiritual journeys around the world. And it's not just education, it's clean water, it's about finding the tools for personal self-empowerment in the way that they live. He's an accomplished author, he's a successful musician, he's a happily married man, he's a spiritual leader, and he is a dear, dear person who is going to provoke you to think anew. He has books for sale in the back for you later. And please welcome to the Bema my soul brother, Dr. David Ault.
Good morning. And yes, thank you. You know, you took me back to First Assemblies of God in Beaumont, Texas. Praise God, hallelujah. Which is where I was raised. I mean, how many of us were actually born and raised in metaphysics or science of mind? I find that that's not the overwhelming odd. And what I loved most about that environment was the music. And then when I started to listen to the message is when my divine discontent began. And I found my way eventually to the teachings of Ernest Holmes and mental science and science of mind. I do want to say thank you to Keith again for allowing me to be here and to share his people with me. I want to thank some friends of mine who've driven a great distance. My friend Patricia came all the way from Long Beach. And my friend since 6th grade is here from Beaumont, Texas, living in California. Hope, who has my heart, and I love you dearly, so thank you for being here. So I know you've heard this before, but the famous French philosopher Pierre Teilhard de Chardin said, "We are spiritual beings having a human experience." And I remember when I first heard that, there was a sense of relief that came over me because it gave me some definition and it gave me a reason to honor my humanity. And yet, I believe that we are constantly evolving, changing, re-examining things. And when I began to look at that particular quote and the meaning behind that, we are spiritual beings having a human experience, I began to question that. Because when we talk about oneness, when we talk about the danger of labels, when we look at dissolving an us and them mentality, sometimes language is the only thing that helps us create unity back. And I'm a big advocate for language and etymology and the deeper meaning behind that. So what if I said to you that you are a spiritual being having a spiritual experience. And the spiritual experience that each of us is having is predicated on the degree of our awareness. So meaning that, what if there's no human experience, that what we are having is the only thing that we can perceive through the lens by which we are observing life? And so we are never then void of a spiritual experience. The spiritual experience isn't separate from the human experience. It just that means that wherever you are and wherever I am, in that moment, whatever tool that we are using for mindfulness and for awareness and for connectivity and for doing our inner work and for understanding that things are not as they seem, simply means then that that's my spiritual experience in that moment, to the degree of my recognition of it, my understanding of it, my participation in it. And that spiritual experience then does what? It continues to spiral up. The lens, the aperture of the way in which I see the world begins to open up greater and greater and greater, to the degree that I continue to do my own individuated work. So I just want to throw that out. You can take it, leave it. It's up to you. But we are spiritual beings then, having a spiritual experience. And it doesn't matter how well seasoned you might be as a metaphysician, as a person embracing fully being a light changer in the world, or if you're someone that's just walked in and is looking for a way to escape some individual pain. It doesn't really matter. The same principle applies, is that one must perpetually practice this particular understanding. And how do we do that? And that continues to be the question that is presented to me over and over and over and over again. No matter who I'm teaching, no matter how long-standing a person has been involved in this particular brand of spirituality, it doesn't matter. Everybody's constantly looking for some new answer in some way in order to bypass, leapfrog into total bliss. And I continue to say there is no bypass, there is no leapfrogging, there's only practice. There's only practice. People don't like that answer. We're always looking for some panacea or something that's going to take us from where we are here to where we fictionalize or embody or fantasize about wanting to be. But what about all of this? And all of this is where we are, and all of this is a part of the spiritual experience. So, what do we do? What do we do? For me as a teacher, for me as someone who puts themselves out there to prove the principle, I heard it said this way once, and this is what I love. People would rather see a sermon than hear one. And so that has become sort of a personal motto for me. How do I then live out loud, to the best of my ability, these principles, warts and all? How do I begin to continuously show up and advocate for the thing that we say that we believe in, that anything is possible because everything has its origin in mind? How do I live from that in integrity? And again, the only thing is practice. So I'm always looking for ways in order to bring some practicality, no matter how long we've been at this. So you guys don't have programs. So I don't have a prop for you, but you do have your hand. So I want you to take your hand and put it in front of your face. And forget the peripheral vision and just look at your hand. In fact, if you put both hands in and bring them really close, then what do you see? Okay. And so the hands that, keep them up there, the hands that you are looking at, that represents your immediate problem. That is the thing that you're in anxiousness about. That's the thing that is prompting the anxiety. That's the how am I going to pay for this? That's the diagnosis. That's the problem in the relationship. That's all of the things that keep us up at night, is everything that you're looking at right now. And even if you keep them up, what do you know is beyond those hands? A bunch more, right? What you know is that there are all kinds of options and solutions and things that are already in existence. I like to say solution already exists, but my focus is on what? Whatever that immediate anxiety, whatever that problem, whatever that worry is. And so as long as our vision and as long as our practice, our focus, our language is focused on this particular thing, we cannot see what? I can't see the forest for my two hands that now need to be moisturized because I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? Right? And so that's it. That's how we are living our life. We're living our life like this when we are not hypervigilant and when we are not hyper-aware. So I'm not saying that which appears to be a hiccup in our lives or that which appears to be a problem doesn't present itself, because those things are a part of what I call small r reality. And small r reality is this. But there is a capital R reality which tells us that there is something that is aligned with infinite intelligence, that is aligned with more than enough, that is aligned with absolute love, that is aligned with unity, that is aligned with all things working together for good. And our responsibility is my vision, my focus, my language, my friendships, my circle of influence is either going to be this or it's going to be that. And I get to choose. I like to call that choice becoming forest people. I don't want to be tree people. There's so many tree people, and I become a tree people all the time because I get sucked into the drama just like everybody else. But the moment that I'm in that, I realize that my option is to be a forest person. And the more that I align with my forest vision nature, meaning that there's far more out there, guess what happens? I start meeting more forest people. I start meeting more of those we call visionaries. I start meeting more of those people who resonate from that particular line of understanding in terms of the true nature of capital R reality. And when I do that, we all then can begin to do great work in the world. And I want you to know that those people are all around you, but you are never going to be able to find them or intertwine with them or hold vision and space with them if you too don't become forest people. And I say that to myself. That becomes my daily mantra. So we are spiritual beings having a spiritual experience to the degree that A, we remember that we are forest people. And that's really the true worldview. And B, to the degree that we are willing to practice that. How many of you have taken classes with Dr. Keith? Does the name Thomas Troward come up? Have you studied Troward? I love Troward. In fact, when students complain about studying the antiquated Old English language of Troward, I go, I love Troward. He starts a sentence on page 3 and ends it on page 15. Run-on sentence. But in that run-on sentence is amazing stuff. And one of the things that Thomas Troward said was, my mind... So my mind, which is the vehicle of my consciousness, my mind is a center of divine operation. It's an affirmation, right? My mind is a center of divine operation, not of random operation, but divine operation. And he goes on to say the divine operation is always for expansion, not when it's convenient. But the mind, the divine operator, is always for expansion and fuller expression, and this means the production of something beyond what has gone before. I've got to read that again. Divine operation. My mind is a center of divine operation, and this divine operation is always for expansion and fuller expression, and this means the production of something beyond what has gone before. How many of you have hunger for something beyond what has been just standard living? And that's what we're called to do. We do not have the luxury to not hop aboard that particular consciousness train. Not in this day and age. And we are called upon to be people who have the vision to look at something that has gone beyond what has been the standard for what was before. That's just basic evolution. But you and I, and the responsibility of understanding that, means that we have our work to do. So today, I called this Everything Happens Twice. Have you ever heard that expression before? Everything happens twice. Where's the first time that it happens? In thought, in mind. And so that expansive nature that Thomas Trord was talking about happens in mind. And this is what I love, because every single day, these little nuggets of inspiration, of wisdom, of creativity are landing in your mind. Every single time, there's some little pocket of creativity that is tugging at you, and it's landing in there. And most of the time, what happens when it lands, we negate it. Or we go, why even bother, because everybody else is doing that, you know? And so all of a sudden, this great idea that you saw come into your head is now an infomercial. And you're like, oh, I invented the Chia Pet in my head, and look, somebody actually took it and ran with it. But that creativity is coming in all forms. And so what Trord is very famous for saying is that when that happens, when that creativity, when that expansion, when that urge, and when that desire lands within consciousness, at the same time, unilaterally, what also lands is the ways and means to bring that thing to fruition. Because if that were not true, then this would be a very cruel existence. If we were filled with inspiration and ideas landing all the time, but there was no means to bring that to fruition, then that would be quite hard. But when you understand that at the same time, the ways and means are there, then what is ours to do? To notice the negation, to notice the lack of self-worth, to notice the doubt, to notice the excuse, and to realize that what's happening is this. And I get to then look and say, what is it with regards to all this inspiration that I want to become my focus? What is the thing that I want to do? Not comparing myself to anybody else, because if that were the case, if we all did that, then everyone who wanted to write a love song would say, well, why bother? Because love songs have already been written. Why write a screenplay? Because every theme has already been explored. Why craft and paint or build or invent something? Because there's always something exactly like that or some semblance of that already there. But no one's going to do it exactly like you. No one's going to do it exactly like me. So first we must become honoring of self. In order to begin to break down and dissolve the tree, we must start to honor the self and realize that what I envision, what lands before me, I'm capable of doing if I'm interested, if I'm truly desirous of that. I don't get to linger in the laziness of thinking that I'm incapable. It's just not, I'm not willing to do that. Now, I'm not saying that every creative idea that lands is, we would be fragmented, but you get to choose what resonates and speaks to your soul. And when you do that, when you live in that honorable space, you magnetize and give permission for that which is the collective to be able to do the same. Because there is no us and them. There is just one spiritual experience. So your decision to say yes to a forest vision, believe it or not, energetically gives other people permission to do the same thing. And that's why you matter. That's why what you do in the privacy of your own spiritual practice matters. And so, what is afforded us as forest people? Number one is provision. Provision. How many of us get all caught up in the density of the human definition of money? Good. All of you have transcended that. That's great. So I'm just going to talk to myself for a minute. But provision. Okay. So this is so prevalent when the topic of provision comes up. It's very seductive, isn't it? We are so seduced in conversation about what we don't have. We are so seduced in the conversation of how hard it is, how tumultuous it is, how unfair it is. And to the degree that we maintain that space and that loyalty is the degree in which provision then looks like this, almost unattainable. And we fight and we claw ourselves in order to get to that particular thing. But provision from the understanding of forest, of understanding that I'm in a universe, I'm in an energy system that knows no limitation, then what is mine to do? The practice then becomes, I become a sentinel. Do you know what a sentinel is? Like in war, a sentinel was someone who was in charge of overseeing and standing and looking and keeping guard. When I think of the job description of a sentinel, there's no like, when is my coffee break? When do I get to leave? There's a recruitment process there because someone who is appointed to be a sentinel understands the magnitude of that job. That there's an immeasurable sense of safety and honorability and protection around all of those things. And I feel as though you and I should really look at our willingness to be a spiritual sentinel of our own mind, of our own thought process. Where am I talking about not having enough? Where am I engaged in the conversation of how hard it is? And what I love about mind science is that it's not right or wrong, that the law of cause and effect just is. So what we've done up until this point isn't wrong. We're just operating at the isness of what it is that we are accustomed to. So the question becomes, do you want to change that? So if I really want to up my game, if I want to change my life around provision, what is required of me? If I'm going to adopt a lifestyle of having forest vision, what is required of me? I've got to become hypervigilant. I have to be a spiritual sentinel around my language. I get to look at what my deeper subjective fears are about perhaps being abandoned, about not being enough. What am I carrying over? You know, when I was born and raised in Beaumont, Texas, my mother was widowed when I was 7. And all that I saw continuously every month at the end of the month was her wringing her hands and saying, we're going to wind up on the street. We're going to wind up on... I was the last of a tribe of children, and so that was her coping mechanism, and that's all that she knew. I see that, I normalize that, and that becomes deeply embedded in my subconscious, so much so that I create a whole life around this idea that the acquisition of my provision is hard. And it isn't until I really take responsibility over and over again and go, I'm doing that. That's the beauty of the law of cause and effect. Cause meaning choice. If I continue to choose that, that continue again becomes my effect or my reality. Forest people help one another. So when you go to lunch, how many of you go to lunch? We're lunch aficionados, right? When we go to lunch, notice the conversation. Notice the conversation that we have with one another, because most of those conversations are centered around what isn't working. Forest people go, okay, we don't have the luxury to do that anymore. I've got to be with people who are going to talk about what is working, who are going to talk about possibility, who are going to talk about and use language consciously because they understanding that cause and effect never takes a break. Of course, we won't be very popular with a lot of our immediate social structure, right? Because they're going to go, what's happened to them? But forest people, truly, if they are a spiritual sentinel, they don't care about what other people think. They only realize that there's one task at hand, and that is to maintain the vigilance of the possibility of what is out there. So like myself, and I'm sure we all have our stories, how do we break free from the narrative of that? Forest people also, too, look at this idea of purpose. God, this topic of what's my purpose? Your purpose is simply this. It's not vocation. Your purpose is to live and to breathe and to be in joy. That's your purpose. How you creatively express that, individualize that's up to you. But forest people understand that purpose is so interwoven in the way in which we relate to the world. So as Keith mentioned, I used to take people on these sacred site journeys, and 15 years ago now, I landed in Cambodia. And that'll be another talk, but something physically happened to me. Like my heart burst open when I looked at the delineation between the haves and the have-nots. The haves were the tourists. The have-nots was the immense poverty that was happening in Cambodia at the time. It was not too long after Princess Diana had died, and her last big initiative was to excavate all of the landmines out of Cambodia. And because there was still so much after the Civil War that had happened in the 70s. Those landmines, the last ones that were planted, were made out of plastic. And they were teaching the Cambodian children to recycle. So if they were in unexcavated fields and they saw plastic, they would go and they would think that that was recycling, and then it would blow their limbs off, and so they would have no arms and legs on top of the immense poverty there. And an overwhelming experience which burst open my heart, which made me realize that I'm not separate from these children, caused me to make a vow. And that vow was that I was going to go back year after year, and I was going to be open to finding sustainable solutions to be able to provide these children with education. Because education was the only thing that got me out of my experience. And there was a travel writer in the 90s, his name was Doug Boyd, and he said this caught my attention. He said, the most powerful mantra that you can ever say is, I'm available. And he said, look out, because if you're sincere about that, your whole world is going to change. And I remember adopting that. And I remember in a smelly pontoon boat on the banks of the Tonle Sap River in Siem Reap, Cambodia, saying, I'm available, and not knowing what that would look like. And these years later, we have 2 schools now, 2 campuses in Siem Reap that provide English, which is imperative, IT technology training. I mean, they're learning how to code. These little village children that don't have anything are learning how to code, and fresh water, and all kinds of life skills, other life skills training and hygiene and all that, simply because of that one purpose-driven affirmation of I'm available. Now, if I told you all the mistakes that I made along the way, we would be here till next year. And that's not the point. The point is that all of those fumblings and bumblings don't matter, because the purpose is only centered around your availability. So all the mistakes actually end up being divine lessons. And so whatever your purpose is, I would invite you to incorporate that mantra, to look at what are the divine nuggets that continue to land in my consciousness. Those things don't care about your age. They don't care about your economic situation. They don't care about any of your history. All they care about is right now, and right now in this moment, are you available? And if you're sincere about that, pay attention. So being a forest person comes, again, with provision. It comes with purpose. And it also comes with power. Power. And when I talk about power, I want to talk to you just briefly about electricity. You understand electricity. We all understand electricity to a degree. When I plug things in the wall, I'm not really quite sure where it's all coming from. I just know I plug it in and something happens, right? I don't know all of the full technicalities of the wiring and the origin of where that is, but I do know that that electricity is channeled. I do know that it's deliberately manufactured and brought to a specific thing. And so electricity, good. Electricity, bad, label, would be just unbridled use of that, just, willy-nilly causing fires and who knows what, and evil people in Marvel Comics movies using it for the detriment of the world. But it's still a non-partial energy. And so that, to me, that power is the same kind of power that you and I have. And that power can be used negatively, or it can be used positively. And that power, to me, then really is about connection. Connection. When we understand that we do not have the luxury to disconnect from certain sets of society. Why? Because we are a part of them. So here's the good part that you really won't like. is that every person, every group, every political affiliation, everything that we have disdain for, we are a part of that. We really don't have the luxury of an us and them if we're forest people. If we're hand people, if we're tree people, yes, we can. And boy, we can get a lot of mileage out of this, right? But when we understand that what we see and observe, we are a part of, so what are we going to do about that? That means then that we can't enter into the activity of that with fighting against something, but we must become people of vision. I saw this meme and I laughed because I thought it was a convenient way out, and I'm sure you've heard this, right? Not my circus, not my monkeys. Have you heard that? So when you look at all the chaos and the stupidity and all of that, awful stuff out there, there was this great cartoon that went, not my circus, not my monkeys. And I went, yes! Because that's my way out, that's my us and them. That's my tree person going, finally, I don't have to associate with that. I love that little saying. And then I realized it's not true. Because there's just one circus. And we're all the monkeys. We're all the monkeys of the same circus. And we're all operating at varying degrees of consciousness. So what will we do? What will we do for the world? How will we bring our forest sensibility and actually promote and create sustainable healing? How will we begin to be a part of the dissolution of the separateness that divides us? And the only way that we can do that is not by fighting against it, but by entering into that particular situation with a vision. And that vision is that the solution is there. That vision is that I must do the quiet work within my own life to look at how I want to use another as a scapegoat and take responsibility for that. And understand that in my mind what I can do is I can begin to formulate harmony. How many of you who are students of this teaching do what we call affirmative prayer or spiritual mind treatment? I have so many parents come to me and say, will you do a treatment for my daughter or my son so that they will leave that low-life girlfriend or boyfriend that they have and come to their senses? And of course, I know that I can't do that kind of prayer because that's usurping that person's free will. But what I lovingly try to remind the person is this. What I can do is that I can know with you that every time you think of your daughter, every time you think of your son, that you see them as fulfilled. You see them as thriving. You see them as lovingly engaged. You see them joyous. Every single time they come up in mind, that's what you see. And that's the truth for the way in which we see our world. Forest people will always see solution. And so what we have the opportunity to do every single day is to practice that truth and know that it is so. And so it is. Thank you.
Dr. David Ault, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Forest people. Cool, I love it. All right, so I'll take a deep breath, let all that settle in. Feel the energy in the room. You feel the energy when you're called to a higher idea, right? You can feel it transpiring. As you start asking yourself, okay, am I going to take that in and pay attention to it, or walk out of here and start eating pound cake and cookies and like, yeah, that was cute. So it's up to all of us, as he knows. So I'd like to welcome back to the Bima our musician for another song, Arne and the team.
Thank you. What a powerful message. Give him some more love. More love. Tree, forest, tree, forest. Let's all take a breath together. And today, what you all didn't know when you walked in here today was that this would be the first day and the very first rehearsal and the very first performance of the CSL Los Angeles Choir. Give yourselves a hand. Y'all are it. Y'all are it. And this song is a chant that comes from one of my favoriteest people in the world, one of my favoriteest singers, one of my favoriteest composers who lives right here in Los Angeles. It's Ricky Byers-Beckwith at the Agape International Spiritual Center. This is Ricky's song. Y'all gonna sing with me? Yeah. Y'all part is easy, I promise. I'll give it to you. I am listening to the music of the Holy Spirit. Oh, the song God is singing. I will listen all day long. I will listen all day long. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Hallelujah. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Hallelujah. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Hallelujah. That sounds good. I am lifting in the love of the Holy Spirit. Oh, what a joy God is being. Praise the Spirit all day long. Praise the Spirit all day long. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Hallelujah. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Hallelujah. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Hallelujah. I am moving to the rhythm of the Holy Spirit. This dance of life God inspires, keeps me dancing. My faith is strong, keeps me dancing. My faith is strong. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Hallelujah. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. in the stillness of the Holy Spirit. Oh, what a light God is being. Let us see it everywhere. Let us be it everywhere. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Hallelujah. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Hallelujah. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Hallelujah. Once more, everybody. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Hallelujah. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Hallelujah. Praise the Spirit. Hallelujah. Praise the Spirit. Hallelujah. Praise the Spirit. Hallelujah. Praise the Spirit. Hallelujah.
Arne Batson. And really, I believe it was Spirit expressing as Arne Batson, along with Pete, Andy, and Guy. Thank you. I'm just taking that in. It's quite wonderful. So now is the opportunity for you and I to share our provisions with the Center for Spiritual Living Los Angeles. And we do that through the opportunity, as our ushers come forward, to give of your financial good in a way to support this community and this ministry. The methodology of that is through cash or check or credit card. If you'd like to do that in a credit card format, you can do that either online or through with Reverend Edward in the back, as well as you can go to our website, which is csl-la.org, click on Home, and then Donate, and that will give you the opportunity to make a donation, as well as through our app in the App Store. Do that. You can click on the app, and then there's donates right up at the top. It's been asked of me if we would create an opportunity for you all to set it up for monthly giving. That's now been set up through the electronic, so when you go in through PayPal, through that, it'll give you the option to check monthly donations, and then that's set up that way, and we're more than happy to support you in doing that. So let's just take a moment and take the good in which your provisions that you're sharing, and however you're doing that, and place it close to your heart. I'm holding my mobile device up because I did it by means of our app this morning. Just close your eyes, please, and see this good that you're sharing with this community as a reflection of your understanding of living in the flow of life. That it's a reflection of being a forest person. And that stepping into the abundance of the universe through this experience and this expression is invoking sustainable healing around the world. And that not only does this community thrive, but all communities thrive as a result of our conscious participation and we see it being returned to us multiplied abundantly. And we say together, and so it is.
'Tis the gift to be simple, 'tis the gift to be free, 'tis the gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, till by turning, we come round right.
Thank you, Andrew. Yes. What a journey today. So let me share with you an update and some information. So for the week, what we have in front of us is the Wednesday morning online guided meditation. Please feel free to join in on that. That starts at 8 a.m. The information for that is on our website as well as in our weekly e-newsletter. If you aren't receiving that and you would like to, connect with Edward at the greetings table and he can give you the sheet to sign up for that. Class continues this week, Wednesday night. We're in our 7th class and it's on practical mysticism. A mystic is speaking to me. I'm one with it. And in all of its glory. I just need to let that pass. The siren, not the mystic. So the class is spectacular. Feel free to come if you just want to check it out for a one-night class. I was asked today if that's okay. It absolutely is. We're having fun on that journey of practical mysticism. And then want to remind you that Fridays at 11:30, there's the dance class at the Hollywood Dance Center. If you'd like to take that, it's every Friday between 11:30 and about 12:45 with Walter Painter, and it's the spirit of dance. It's incorporating your spiritual nature in the way that you shake your groove thing. So that's what it is. Yes, so that's it for announcements. Just want you to know we have things for you to consume in the form of flour and processed sugar and caffeine in the back. Avail yourself of that and enjoy it as you chew that today. A huge thank you for you all for being here today. A big thank you to our setup team, which is Bob Zwolinski and Jesus Reese on audio in the back and setup. A big thank you to Reverend Edward for the work that he's done helping us today. A thank you to Reverend James for him today bringing his humanness both in the meditation and the spiritual mind treatment. Dan Turman for illuminating our candles. For our music team, Pete Erlansky, Gaia Zule. A big shout out to Andy Belling for the work that he does. Of course, Arne Batson, thank you for bringing your soul to us today. And a big thank you to my soul brother, Dr. David Ault. Piece of my heart. So, and Guy, I missed you back here. I thought I did. Andy missed it. Yeah, I said Guy. So everybody, let's thank Guy for being here today. Good. 11:12, it's time, right? So let's close with a spiritual mind treatment. So as I speak my word, I do so today for each and every one of us. So we feel the joy of that which has transpired today. I know that we feel the energy of transformation that is taking place because we have each made a covenant and a commitment today to move our hands, whether they're moisturized or not, away from our face. And put those hands to work moisturizing spirit. Giving ourselves permission to step into the forest of life itself, to consciously attract into our field of existence those individuals that are a reflection of the resonance field that we are as we walk this journey of life, being awakened spiritual beings, having a spiritual experience. and celebrating that our mind is the vehicle for our consciousness. And so we choose to be in this very moment evolutionary beings. We commit to ourselves in this moment to let go of the need for discourse, discord, and fighting and seeing the others as something separate. We choose today to be the day that we make a commitment to do our part to create a safer space on planet Earth